like the color of your car there, man. What's that supposed to be? Sort of a cross between piss yellow and puke green, ain't it?
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live from my parents' basement in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Dan, good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Paul. I'm Dan Simon, broadcasting from the Studio Simon headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. Actually, that's how you led off our last episode, dropped the day before New Year's Eve, but you did lead off that episode by wishing me a happy new year, if I remember correctly.
I did, but I feel like there's a window there, right? Like there's a window before the new year and then after the new year where you can say Happy New Year, especially since this is the first episode of 2026, and we're starting it with a new team for 2026. I'll tell you what, though, the Modesto Roadsters have been through something that you, Dan Simon, have been through with a team many years ago. So I wanted to chat before we go talk about the Roadsters with several people involved with that team. I wanted to just ask you about your experience with what was going to be the New Hampshire primaries. And then there was a small but vocal minority that sort of spoke out against the name New Hampshire primaries. It caused the team to backpedal and go with a different name. They went with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. A missed opportunity, though. They revisited it, and now they use that primaries brand as a big part, one of their main alternate identities. What was that like for you as a designer to have created a brand, that was, by all objective measures, really, really good, and then to see, a bunch of knuckleheads shout it down and force the team to change it?
Yeah, that one was, I have to admit, frustrating, because even though that identity was created before minor league baseball identities existed on the current landscape that they do, where, as the oft-used word from Paul Caputo's mouth, wacky identities,
Yep.
They were not nearly as prevalent back then. They were not nearly as prevalent as they are now. However, it was so obvious to me that identity was going to be a hit. And you use the expression or term vocal minority. It's what happens anytime there's something that gets under somebody's skin. The vocal minority will be very loud, while the silent majority will be just that, silent, because they have nothing to complain about. And
nobody takes to the street with everything is fine.
Yes, exactly. It was really a shame when they pulled that identity. Yes, they did make up for it a little bit when they later reintroduced it as an alternate identity, but in the end, it's a shame that it worked out that way, and it was a shame at the time.
When you saw Modesto going through this, and this was a city where one of your brands lived for many years. Obviously, the Modesto Nuts were there in Modesto as an affiliated team. Modesto left in that big merry-go-round of teams changing affiliations and locations in Southern California, replaced with, obviously, the Glow Riders. We'll talk about that a little bit in the upcoming segments. And then, landing eventually on the Roadsters. One of the interesting things about the story is, they thought they had their brand and they were running with it, and then all of a sudden they had 10 days to come up with a new brand. What's the minimum amount of time that you, as a high-quality professional designer, need to bring a fully fleshed out identity to a team?
Well, normally I tell teams who have asked me to develop a brand identity, the timeline is 8 to 12 weeks, but there have been exceptions. When I did the Fredericksburg Nationals, they were behind through really no fault of their own. It had to do with them getting stadium approval, and it came after the normal deadlines. And minor league baseball, at the time, it was minor league baseball. Before there was no longer the minor league baseball offices, they said, look, how quickly can you get this done? And I think we got it done. I'd have to look this back up, but my recollection is like 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
That involved burning the candle at both ends. It also was helped by the fact that the client understood that this was an unusually fast timeline. They were really terrific in making sure that we got things done as quickly as possible.
Dan, this is a fun episode. We're talking about the Modesto Roadsters. We're going to talk to the team owner, Dave Heller, who has been on the podcast before. We're going to speak with designer Greg Gallup, who not only has not been on the podcast before, but hasn't really worked in sports branding before. So this is a new addition to the podcast. And then friend of the podcast, Jim Christopher, who is the host of Ballpark Nation, but also is a film studier. And we'll be talking about the movie American Graffiti. And then, of course, at the end of the episode, Dan, it's going to be you, Dan Simon, with a Studio Simon Stumper.
It will. And this is an episode I'm very interested to listen to. As you listeners, I think, have learned, by the time when I do the stumper, I've not yet heard the episode itself. So I'll hear the episode, at least the middle segment, when you all do. And I'm looking forward to hearing that one. So see you in a little bit, Paul.
See you on the other side, Dan. All right, everyone. I am so pleased to welcome back to Baseball by Design Dave Heller, who is the owner of the Modesto Roadsters. You may remember Dave from the Quad Cities River Bandits episode, which was another team in Dave's ownership group there. So, Dave, good morning. How you doing?
I am great, Paul. Good to talk with you.
Well, it's nice to have you back. Good to chat with you again. This Modesto Roadsters team, this logo is a lot of fun. There's a lot to sort of unpack here about this logo.
Yes,
so I'm just
there
going
it is.
I want to start though just with what's a roadster? What does that name mean, and what is the significance of roadsters to Modesto, California?
So Modesto is the hometown of a fellow by the name of George Lucas.
Heard of him?
Many people know him from Star Wars fame.
Yeah.
But his first big successful movie, was a movie called American Graffiti, which was about his life growing up in Modesto.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie celebrated Modesto's car culture. To this day, that is still a big part of what Modesto is about. We have a wonderful, for anybody who ever happens to be going by Modesto, there is a wonderful museum there called the Graffiti USA Museum, where they have just a slew of old classic cars in beautiful tip-top condition. And so that classic car culture is a big part of what Modesto is. They have every year, they have something called Graffiti Weekend, which includes a 1,200 car parade on Friday night, the first Friday night in June. So we wanted to tap into that car culture and that 1950s American Graffiti diner vibe. And that's where we were going with the Modesto Roadsters.
So this logo, the number of elements here, you've got the Modesto Arch, which is obviously a landmark
Yes.
in the city of Modesto. You've got a Roadsters script that has kind of a neon feeling about it, and you mentioned diner
Right.
culture. There's a very distinctive car in it that I will let you comment on. And then the character driving the car is a Kit Fox with like a
Yes.
sort of like 60s style hairdo. So I don't know
Yes.
which one of these elements you want to take on first here, but that the overarching sort of effect of these is it has a very like 60s vibe about it. Why a fox? Is there anything particular about this car? And the Modesto Arch, that's kind of cool to have that in there too. So that's a
Yes.
kind of a question. I'll let you comment.
All right. So look, let's start here. Working with Greg and his wife Andy over at Slightly Obsessed Studios was really was a thrill and was a true collaboration in every sense. We worked so closely together, texting ideas back and forth 15, 20 times a day.
Hmm.
It was really a wonderfully collaborative process. And each of these elements that you mentioned all are unique to Modesto. The Kit Fox is a San Joaquin Kit Fox, and this Modesto is in the San Joaquin Valley. The Kit Fox is also orange and black, which is a nod to the San Francisco Giants. These are all Giants fans in Modesto.
Hmm.
And our manager, JT Snow, six-time Gold Glove winner and star for the Giants for many years.
That is very cool.
Of course, the Modesto Arch, which if you drive through downtown Modesto, is all lit up. Water, wealth, contentment, health. I think that's kind of neat to get that in there.
Hmm.
You can see the font choice and the accents around Modesto give that very much that diner culture, that diner vibe to it, as well as the color.
Hmm.
The Kit Fox is driving a 1961 Chevy Corvette, candy apple red with the white wall tires and the white side panel. It's a beautiful car, kind of an aspirational car for people young and old. Like I don't know anybody who sees that car and says I wouldn't look great driving it. The symbol of home plate,
Hmm.
right behind the car.
Right.
And the baseball's in the in the mirror
Yep.
and the hanging off the mirror, and the Kid Fox is holding a baseball. Well, he's got a couple bats in his back seat. I just love it. I think it's just really cool.
So you mentioned Kit Fox is native to Modesto. You're not native to Modesto, so this was something of a learning process for you. Greg Gallup, the designer, he is in Modesto. How important was it for you to work with somebody local who knows that community to create the logo?
I don't know that I would say important as much as I would just say incredibly fortunate that
Mm,
we were able to work with Greg and Andy and tap not only into their local knowledge of the market, but also that just their great talent and their collaborative spirit.
mm,
They were open to all my suggestions. They bring a local perspective that I found to be really helpful. And together we just kept polishing and changing and tweaking and really came up with something that we just love and the community has been so embracing of.
mm.
And Paul, as you probably know, it was a rocky road to get there. It really was.
Well, so you brought it up. There,
Yeah.
the team unveiled the Modesto Glow Riders
Yeah.
as a brand, working with a different designer. And this has happened before in minor league baseball, where the reaction wasn't what you were expecting, maybe, or hoping for from the local community. I didn't see a lot of that. Like I didn't see. I normally track that on social media. So I was actually a little surprised that, when the team said, we're going to, okay, we hear you, we're going to, do something different. If you don't mind commenting on it,
No, I don't mind at all.
what was that process? Was it the local community that you felt like we, needed to be heard, or was it the larger minor league baseball community? What went into the decision to say, okay, we hear you, we're going to do something different?
So we put out the Glow Riders and understand we're not running away from the Glow Riders in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
I love the Glow Riders name. I love the Glow Riders logo. I worked with a wonderful, fantastic designer named Francis Santaquiliani. He and I had worked together on the River Bandits logo
Hmm.
back in 2007.
Which is a great
And
one. The River
yeah,
Bandits logo is great.
right, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
And Francis and I have stayed in touch and we've updated and tweaked the River Bandits logo a number of times over time. When I owned the Lowell Spinners, Francis and I worked together to come up with a Mill Sox logo, which was tremendously popular up there. And I thought he did a fantastic job on the Glow Riders. And we're going to play as the Glow Riders. We're
Hmm.
not running away from that or backing off of that in any way, shape, or form. I love the Glow Riders, and I think the Glow Riders is going to do really well out there. But what we heard after we revealed the Glow Riders, after we unveiled them, was there were a number of people in Modesto who didn't really care for it and felt like that we were playing too much to one subset of the community. You know, the Modesto is a, a community that's 60% Latino,
Hmm.
and some people thought that we were playing too much to that segment of the community and ignoring the other. And I feel like where we ended up is we get the best of both, where we have the Glow Riders and we'll play that as sort of our Copa identity, and we have the Roadsters as our primary identity.
And this is, the other sort of interesting thing for me about this is that it's of the four teams that you are, currently in the group of teams that you own, two of them are affiliated and two of them are now independent. Is it a different process for you as an owner when you're developing a brand or working with a community when you're working with an affiliated team versus working with an independent team?
No, not really. The only real difference is the time frame that you have,
Right.
where when you're an independent team, you can do something right away. I
Yeah.
mean, as you know, Paul, we released the Glow Riders name, and we heard from season ticket holders and some sponsors in particular who didn't want us going in that direction. And we pivoted and made the change in 10 days.
Right.
Like you can't do, that's a year in affiliated baseball.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
That's the big difference. The actual, what you do in a logo, what the logo looks like, the colors and everything else. No.
One of the details I wanted to ask you about, the license plate on the car says Cruiser. And I know that
Yes.
Cruiser was one of the names that was, probably in the name team contest or came up from
Yep.
fans and whatnot. What went into the decision to include Cruiser on the license plate of the car?
So Cruiser is also the name of the mascot.
Okay.
Cruiser was the most popular name that was volunteered. We did a pretty intense name the team contest, right?
Hmm.
We a two-phase program where number one, we started by inviting people to send in their suggestions, and we got over 1,000 suggestions of names for the team. And then we culled that down to nine, and we put those nine names out to vote. Of the thousands plus suggestions we got, Cruiser was by far the most popular. The problem for us and the reason we didn't use it is there's a amateur soccer team in Modesto called the Cruisers. And so I said at the beginning, I laid out really only one rule, and that was we're not going to use the name of any other team in the region, and we're not going to use the name of any other team in baseball. We're going to come up with something new and unique.
So speaking of new and unique, obviously part of the history of Modesto baseball, of course, is that the Modesto Nuts, the affiliated California League team, moved to Southern California as part of a whole merry-go-round of California League teams moving, which left a baseball void, a short-lived baseball void in Modesto, which was filled by this Pioneer League team. What was the community's response to that sort of emotional roller coaster of losing the Nuts and then having, this new Pioneer League team come in?
People were really sad about losing the Nuts.
Hmm.
Given the history of baseball in Modesto, that's hard for me as an outsider to really come to grips with. I also saw that as an opportunity to bring in a team that would embrace the community and would be proud to be in Modesto. And look, they when the Nuts left, they were owned by a private equity company with nearly 50 teams under
Hmm.
in their stable. To have a community see an owner and talk to an owner and have an owner communicate back and forth with them and listen to them, that's something that they just hadn't ever experienced before. I think that's really been well received.
I imagine that for you as an owner, and you described yourself as an outsider, there's a learning process about that community. What was the learning process for you? How did you go about, really getting a sense for what Modesto is?
Yeah. So when we put out the Glow Riders, and some people took to social media, it was interesting. Each of the members of the city council, each one of them told me they were hearing good things about the name as well as bad things.
Mm,
Each one said it's a very much a mixed bag, and you can ride this, you'll weather this
hmm
easily. Don't worry about
hmm
it. Some even said don't change.
hmm
I said to the community, I want to hear from you. I want to
hmm
hear from you directly. So we put it out on social media that I would be in a bar and I would offer free drinks for anybody who wanted to come in and give me their opinion about the logo and the name of the team.
hmm.
And we had, I don't know, 120, 125 people show up, and
That's a big tab.
it was a big tab. It was a big tab. But it was a lot of fun. It really was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, hearing from people and getting to know people and meeting people and listening to their stories of baseball in the Central Valley. And it was moving to me. And I think, like I said, I think they appreciated, here's a team owner who's going to come in there and actually sit down and listen with them and buy them a drink and hear what they have to say.
I think probably those city council folks were right that you would have weathered it. I think that's a pretty common arc for minor league baseball teams that, unveil a logo and there's sort of questions about it at first. But I have to say that when the Roadsters logo came out, I didn't see any of that negativity, right? Like I mostly or pretty much entirely what I saw on social media was that's more like it. The fans were like, that's what we were looking for.
So we not only love the name Roadsters, we're going to take it to a whole nother level. We're going to start a promotion next month in January called Take a Roadster to Work.
Oh my.
And everybody who buys a ticket package of any size gets automatically entered into a contest. And each week we will draw the name of one winner and we will pick them up in that 1961 Corvette
Nice.
and drive them to work.
When you said take a roadster to work, I thought you meant one of the players. I was like, that's going to be interesting. So you're talking about the car itself. You guys are going to have the 1961 Roadster.
Exactly. We're gonna drive somebody to work. They have to, live and work in the city of Modesto. We're not
Sure.
going to take you to San Francisco,
Right.
um,
All
but
right,
I think
that's amazing.
that'll be a fun promotion to
Yeah.
really, highlight who we are and how we're different.
Fantastic. I love that though. I hope you get a lot of people entered into that contest and you have to drive a lot of people to work.
So, Paul, when we announced the name the Roadsters, we had a press conference at the Graffiti USA Museum,
Yes.
right? We had all four networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all out of Sacramento. They all came. We had, over 100 people there in the museum for the unveiling of the new Roadsters name, right?
Yeah.
And this museum, it's huge, and as I said before, it's fabulous. Just this great museum.
Yeah.
And I saw they had that car there,
Oh,
and I said, "Great, let's have some fun with this. Let's have me drive in the car from another room and pull up and announce the name Roadsters with the car right there, and we'll reveal the logo,
yeah.
right?"
Yeah.
And they said, "Sure, okay." And so
Wow.
that's what we did, right? And there's pictures of me in the car, getting out of the car, so on. So those cars, 1961, they have the old style locks that pop up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I go to get in the car and my pants catch on the lock and you hear this
Oh no.
and the pants just tear.
You must have thought the team was cursed at that point. You're just like,
and
That is too.
and the driver looks at me and he says, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Let's go. We got to go.
Uh,
We got all these, you know, cameras here.
Oh,
And
that is
so I
too.
did the whole press conference leaning against the car.
Oh, right.
And, and the back of the, my backside never left the back of the car.
That is so funny. And then you backed into the car. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
That is too funny. That is I hope when people see the car now at the ballpark, they'll know that hey, this ripped team owner Dave Heller's pants.
That's exactly right. You got to be careful getting into it when we pick you up and take you to work in the morning.
Too funny. Yeah, you may want to think twice about whether you actually want to win that contest or not.
Just be careful.
Just be
Just be
careful.
careful.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with me, and best of luck in the off season here, prior to your first full season in Modesto, and congratulations on where you all landed. The website is modestoroadsters.com, just like you'd expect. Dave, thanks so much. Hey, we'll see you next time.
I look forward to it.
All right.
Take care, Paul.
You
Bye-bye.
too. All right, everyone. Well, I am very pleased to have on the Baseball by Design podcast for the very first time, Greg Gallup with Slightly Obsessed Studios. Greg, so glad to be talking about this Modesto Roadsters logo that you worked on. If I am understanding this correctly, this is the first sports brand that you all have done with Slightly Obsessed Studios. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the sports world, I've done mascots for schools and stuff like that, but this is my first delve into like a professional sports team. Very
It's
cool encounter.
Yeah, it is. It's well, and it turned out, to be a really fun brand. Dave and I chatted a little bit about the sharp left turn that this brand took after they unveiled the Glow Riders, and then you got involved. It was a very quick turnaround for you all to come up with this Roadsters brand. How did you get involved, and what was that like having a quick timeline to come up with this brand?
So the behind the scenes story is that once they launched the Glow Riders name, that there was some discussion on social media about the name with the local natives here in Modesto. It seemed like someone from the organization was in there kind of explaining the decisions and how they ended up and landed on that name and stuff. And my wife just wrote a message to Corey and said, "Hey, we're a local marketing company. If you guys ever decide to make a change, we'd love to work with you guys. We're really excited. We love local baseball." We were big Nuts fans. We used to go to games all the time. We just spent the last 10 years or so chasing a couple of teenage travel ball players around the country, or around the West Coast at least.
Yeah.
So we're big baseball fans, and we spend a lot of time over there at the ballpark. And in fact, it's the river's out here out my backyard, and the ballpark is literally right down the river from us here.
Oh, great.
So when they do fireworks, we can see them right from my backyard and stuff. We're really close to
Awesome.
the park, and we can hear the games when they get loud. So we just love baseball. So she asked if we can get involved, and the next morning we woke up to a text message from Dave that said, "Give me a call." Yeah, it was
That
crazy.
file that under can't hurt to ask, right?
Yeah, that's basically how it went. We just, we kind of throw it out there, and you never know what's going to happen. And this time, big things happen, and it's been a great project to work on.
Well, it's like I said, the logo turned out to be a ton of fun. I really like the Kit Fox Cruiser. Obviously, the homage to American Graffiti and the very specific car. One of the things that I noticed was that the script, where Modesto Roadsters, looks an awful lot like the American Graffiti poster. I'm sure that was not an accident.
Yeah, we definitely tried to do some nods to the neon diner culture and bring some sort of neon type effects in there. Brings that 50s vibe that we were really going for, was try to get a font that looked like it was made out of tubes. So it's not necessarily specifically a neon look, but it got the idea across. Is kind of what we were trying to convey there. A little bit of neon, and then we've got the three bars on the other side on each side of the Modesto that kind of gives the neon effect, so that if either one of them were used on their own, you kind of get that neon effect.
Did Dave give you a timeline, or was it just we need to turn this around as quick as we can?
It was really just like as fast as possible. And we probably did, I mean, it took us about 2 weeks. I think that was the timeline from where
Okay.
we finally came up with what we considered a finished project, a product. And then he called the press conference and it was like, okay. And that's when it kind of hit us like, oh my gosh, press conference. It started to dawn on us kind of the ramifications of all this and how big this was actually going to be. So it's been really cool.
It's a, when you get into the sports branding world, there's people like me out there, right? Like I write for sportslogos.net, and this podcast obviously is all about minor league baseball branding. So it's something that people get passionate about. My background, I love baseball as well. My background's in graphic design, so I love talking about the sort of the design elements of all this. I'm interested in the fact that, very often with minor league baseball, these logos are either created in-house or there are, five or six or seven, firms out there that are doing a lot of the work.
Right.
The fact that you all, you're a firm in Modesto, and so you had that local connection, but you don't do a lot of sports branding, I think lent itself to this new brand having a pretty different look from some of the things that that we see out there in minor league baseball. Do you follow minor league baseball branding? Did you delve into like, okay, what are all the trends, or did you just, blank your mind from that and start this as its own independent project?
This all happened so fast that there was really no time for study, go do background. It was really just kind of relying on my design experience and trying to execute the vision that Dave had for this brand. And he was key in making this thing happen. Like he was just like 61 Corvette, Kit Fox inside, holding a bait. There were certain things that, the Modesto Arch, all of that stuff had to be in there. Clearly, you got to say Modesto Roadsters. So from those elements, we started putting things together and we got into every level of detail. Dave was key in making basically every design decision that was made through the process. And I've worked with a lot of clients. I've been doing this for 30 something years. So I've worked with a lot of clients and he was an absolute pleasure to work with. There's just some clients you have a hard time getting design feedback from, and he's not that guy. He knew exactly how to talk to us. He gave us very precise feedback and it was key in executing this.
Dave told a pretty funny story about getting to hang out with the actual car from the museum there in Modesto. Did you get to see the car itself, or were you doing it
Yeah,
from
he
photos?
actually drove out in it at the press conference. He drove out from one room into the other room inside the museum down the street here and made his presentation. So he came in with a bang. We actually changed cars. We landed on this car after a few different revisions.
All
We
right,
were kind of tossing around. I don't know how much of this story he told or if I'm even supposed to. The community decided we were up against kind of three different names. They liked Modesto Graffiti,
yeah,
they liked Modesto Classics, and they liked the Modesto Roadsters. Those were
right.
the three names that we were sort of kicking around with Dave and trying to come up with something that was going to fit the community and that the community was going to fall in love with. And to us, just graffiti, it's got two different meanings. You know what I mean? We do have a lot of graffiti here in the town. We got train tracks that go through town, so we do have a lot of graffiti.
Sure.
The Graffiti Nights is an annual event that we do here. It's like a week-long cruising, culture, car shows, and all that stuff, and concerts and things like that. So it's a big part. But outside of Modesto, a lot of people might not know what that means, and it's not like a regular noun. So classics kind of just didn't really mean anything to us, and it didn't give us like something to work with.
Yeah.
It was just like it's an era or something that you're working in. So Roadsters just fit best. It gave us an actual tangible item to work with. So as we were kicking around these names, we went from a 59 Cadillac. I think we originally did the yellow car from the movie, and
Yeah.
it escapes me what exact car that is. And we ended up just working our way through like a 59 Cadillac because he wanted it to be convertible and he wanted the Fox inside the car. So that it had to be convertible so you could have the mascot standing up out of the car. Then once we landed on Roadsters, it was like, all right, it's got to be a Roadster. It can't be a Cadillac.
Of
So
course.
we originally went with a 66 Corvette and we sketched all that out. And I think the night I stayed up all night basically working on the 66 Corvette. The next morning, I think Dave went on a tour over at the graffiti museum here in town, and he saw that 61 Corvette in red and white. And he was like, that's the one. It's got to be this car here. So, like, I mean, originally the car didn't have eyes. Like I found the car, I drew the car, and then Dave was like, hey, well, what if the car was its own character? What if the car had eyes?
We didn't talk about that, but yes, absolutely. I meant to ask you about that. The 61 Roadster here, this Corvette, the headlights are eyes, and is very much a character for sure. So that's
And then you end up with a unique challenge because it's got double headlights on both sides. So as
yes.
he says that, I immediately panic and go, how am I going to pull this off? I can't just take a 61 Corvette and put one eye on each side. So it was like kind of two faces.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a two-faced car.
He's two-faced. He's four eyes. The kids are going to call him four eyes. It still
Yeah,
works. It still reads as eyes, right? Like, I mean, it's
yeah.
still,
And
and
that
it
was the
reads as
idea.
one
Like,
character.
don't try and be like technically accurate.
Did you watch the movie? Did you watch American Graffiti as part of your research?
Not as part of the research, but I mean, we were looking at movie clips. We're looking at characters because as we're designing Cruiser the Fox, we want to use characters. We want to dress. The idea was to dress him like the characters from the movie. So he's a little bit dressed like the character that drives the yellow car in the movie. Although he wore a white T-shirt most of the time when we put a leather jacket. I'm a motorcycle guy, so I like old motorcycle movies.
Nice.
So this is from, and I'd have to look up that too, The Wild One.
Okay.
Johnny from the Wild Ones. I like that jacket that he was wearing in that movie. So although he's a little bit Arthur Fonzarelli, he's got the jacket from the movie from a biker movie.
I have been calling it his John Travolta hair, so I guess I am saying that wrong there. That is not John Travolta. I guess it's more Marlon Brando.
Yeah,
But
a little bit of Fonzie hair, Brando hair.
yep. The character is a ton of fun. Obviously, you were constrained in your colors because that car is a very specific color. It's a very specific red with that sort of cream colored white there. And then the Kit Fox is orange. So you were sort of handed right off the bat, as it were, a red and an orange to work with, and then you paired it
Color
with
palette. Yeah.
yeah, and then you paired it with like that sort of light blue, combining all of those elements, right? Like you've got the Modesto arch, you've got the water, wealth, contentment, health. You've got the car, you've got the Kit Fox, you've got the neon, and then the arch you combined with a home plate. Was that a challenge to combine all those elements, or did they just fall into place?
It was definitely a challenge. There's a lot of pieces, especially for a logo, and that's something like I try to stay off the feedback and try to what people have to say because you get the negative comments about what you did and stuff. But it was a challenge, but it was a welcome challenge, and we had fun putting it together. It is a lot of elements for a logo, and I understand that, but it was the direction that we got, and for the most part, that is going to be. I mean, we're not printing that whole logo on the front of jerseys or anything
Right,
like
right, right.
that. We're using bits and pieces of it here and there, and that's what we understood how this was going to be kind of picked apart to be used for player uniforms and merchandise store and stuff like that. So it's definitely a lot. It's a lot to try and cram into one logo, but I mean, we wanted to have a frame, so we decided on home plate. Like the home plate turning into the arch was, you know what I mean? These things just they started to sort of come together as I just take all the pieces and put them on the canvas and start figuring out where can we put all these things so that it makes sense. It did just kind of fall together.
Well, I can tell you that the impact online, the comments I saw were all much better. It's sort of a sigh of relief. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if you weren't, tracking that out there, but I can tell you that the reaction online was good. So it was and this Kit Fox character is in particular a lot of fun. And I think he's going to look good on a t-shirt and for my purposes on an ice cream helmet because that is that's where I like to
Right.
see a logo is on an ice cream helmet
Yeah.
at a baseball game.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, I can't wait to see this. I mean, we got to do the player uniforms. We've done all that stuff,
Yeah.
so it's gonna be an eye-opening experience to show up on opening day there in May and see Cruiser walking around the field. This thing being turned into a full 3D model, walking around like seeing the stuff. Like we started, as I said, as we started to wrap up the project, we started to realize like, wait a minute, this is gonna be like in the grass. It's gonna be all over the place. So.
There's
Like,
going to be
wow, this is
baseball
not good.
players wearing it. You're going to see it in the airport when you're traveling, right? Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of places. You lean in a little bit to a question that I wanted to end with, which is you're a Modesto resident. You mentioned you've been to the Nuts games, and you're a baseball fan. This is not Greg the designer. This is Greg the baseball fan. How important is it to you as a baseball fan that you're still going to have a ball club to go see this summer?
Like I said, I'm so close to the park that the games are 5 minutes away for us. We don't have to drive any kind of time or do any kind of travel to go over there and see a game. So we 5 o'clock, we would just decide, let's go grab a game. So to us, it's huge. We love the park. We love Modesto baseball, and now we love being part of Modesto baseball.
Well, Greg, this has been it's great to meet you and great to talk to you about this brand. You mentioned before we started recording that you have a podcast of your own, and then of course the studio is Slightly Obsessed Studios. Where can people find your podcast, and where can people find Slightly Obsessed Studios online?
I've got a buddy from high school. We do a podcast together about being a couple of Gen X kids growing up in the 80s and being a couple of metalheads growing up here in the Central Valley of California and the trouble that we got in. And we talk about everything, music and movies and mental health and basically kind of what it's like being a grown up now. Like being a child in a grown up's body is mostly what we feel like. Like we're just kids with adult money now.
Right. It's
So
dangerous.
that's kind of what we talk about on the podcast. You can find the Gen X Are We Adults Yet if you want to check it out. If you're an 80s kid and you want to kind of like lean into that culture, you can check it out. We're at studioobsessed.com is our website, and we've got hopefully some exciting things coming up in 2026.
So, all right, the podcast is Gen X. Are we adults yet? And Slightly Obsessed Studios is at studioobsessed.com. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
There you go. All right. Well, Greg, this has been fun. Great to meet you. And hey, hope to chat with you again sometime, or maybe catch a Roadsters game with you when I finally make it out to Modesto for a ball game.
Absolutely. Come
All
on
right.
out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, we'll talk to you next time.
All right, Paul. Appreciate it, man.
All right, everyone. I am so pleased to welcome back to Baseball by Design my very good friend, Jim Christopher, who is the producer of the show Ballpark Nation. Jim, hello. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. It's like I get to be on one of my favorite shows. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, at the time of this recording, you are wearing a very Christmassy Houston Astros sweatshirt here, or a sweater, I guess.
I
It's a
am.
Christmas
It's actually
sweater.
a knitted sweater. Yeah.
And it's also Hanukkah. You're wearing your Team Israel cap there, so it's you've got all the holidays covered.
I do.
You are not just the producer of Ballpark Nation, and I will say that Ballpark Nation combines two of the things that you love, which of course, one, minor league baseball, two, films, filmography, the study of films, and you pursue that academically, you pursue that as a passion project. So you are, I dare say, an expert on films. And so I was thinking, hey, this Modesto Roadsters brand is very heavily founded in this movie, American Graffiti. So I thought, who better to talk to about American Graffiti than Jim Christopher? So, my first question, Jim, is just sort of basic one. What is it about this film that resonates still all these many decades later? It was made in the 70s, it's set in the 60s. Here we are in the 20s, so it's been half a century. Why does this film still resonate?
Well, I think the first and maybe not most important reason, but maybe probably the most shallow reason is without this movie, we don't get Star Wars, which is so weird. When you watch American Graffiti, nothing about this screams, I can make Star Wars, but it came out of nowhere, low budget. Lucas wrote and directed it and was the precursor to making Star Wars. But there's a lot of other reasons why. I think one, the talent on that screen, mostly people nobody had ever heard of. And we're talking about some of the biggest stars that you're going to see in film afterwards. Richard Dreyfuss is going to go on to do Jaws. Ron Howard becomes a multi-Oscar winning director. Yeah, he was Opie, and that's fine. But then more importantly, he would, ironically enough, go on to direct a Star Wars film. Of course, you have Harrison Ford. But the real reason why it matters is the movie's good. It's really well done, and it captures, we talk about America. My other passion, my other degree is American history. And we always talk about when did America sort of lose its innocence? And when did America kind of lose maybe its sense of what America was in this at least sort of post World War II time? And American Graffiti captures that moment almost, because it literally is right before friends go to college, one's going to go to Vietnam. I mean, all of this stuff happens. And I think particularly people of a certain age will find the entry points into that movie, being it George Lucas's first thing or all these other actors, and come away getting a real sense of what America was like in that period of time before the first time we lost a war and the first time we had questions about that. Well, I mean, all of those, like everything changed after the period in which this movie takes place. I think it's a big reason why. And then Lucas is able to wrap it in the trappings of things that are cool, really good music, really good cars. I mean, he did just an expert job. In many ways, I think this is his best storytelling endeavor as a filmmaker, because of the way he wrapped all of those big things into things that are easily digestible if you're a surface. And I'll just tell you, one of my students is a senior who's going to film school and watched this movie literally before you asked me to come on the show, but like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, have you seen this movie? It's fantastic. And I think that there's proof positive that it does hold up even to this generation today.
By the way, this movie was released 5 days before the day I was born.
Really?
So I am like basically the same age as American Graffiti. How important to the movie do you think the town of Modesto, California is?
I think it's incredibly important. For one, I think Modesto, California, it's a small city, right? It's not a big major metropolis. And so I think when we talk about that loss of American innocence that we talked about with the movie, what better place to set it than this kind of small town that there is going to be, you got the sense of nostalgia even built into the movie, even though many of the kids, it's that age-old story of we want to leave the town, but they can't really leave the town. It's part of them. And I think that's why setting it there, but also it means if you're watching this and you're from, let's say, the Lehigh Valley area, small towns like that exist there too. And I think it makes that ability to be, that movie makes it more relatable. If you had set the movie in Los Angeles, it's not as relatable as but putting it in a small town where everybody knows everybody and there is that communal thing, I think is what makes that movie so universal. But Lucas has always worn his connection to Modesto and California on his sleeves. I mean, his whole story, right, is that he didn't want to be an LA filmmaker. Like he did what he had to do in LA and then built Skywalker Ranch anywhere else but in Los Angeles. So I think there's that kind of rebellion against LA reflects itself when Lucas sets this movie in his hometown.
Is it one when people are talking about, like, when they have these lists of, like, the 50 best movies of all time, the top 100 movies of all time, is American Graffiti regarded like that? Is it, listed there with The Godfather, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? I don't know. Like, is it one of the all-time classics in American film history?
I think it is. I mean, I would put it in a top 100 on my list. It is. I mean, I do have a top 100 list and it is on there. It's probably to the latter half of that. And I don't know if it's because, but in my circles of film, everyone loves it. So I don't know if it translates beyond that, but to me, it's the success of telling several simple interlocking stories, yet the movie's always in motion. But you're right. Like you mentioned earlier, it's got a very 1970s pace to it. It isn't something, it's not Fast and the Furious. It's very much a cruising film. Lucas has talked about this a bunch, about wanting to just do cruising movies in other kind of eras and time periods and even galaxies in some regards. But yeah, I think that a lot of people that make film really do appreciate what Lucas pulled off for very little money. The movie didn't cost anything to make. And so to be able to connect that way story-wise is what every filmmaker seeks to do.
One of the things that I think is sort of fun about this movie as it pertains to the Roadsters and their logo is the car, right? Like the car itself. You mentioned a really great litany of actors who are in this movie, great soundtrack with all the songs and everything. How important are the cars themselves to this movie?
I think that they're, and it's weird because you said I'm not a car guy either, right? I drive a 2011 Hyundai Santa Fe and I shall drive that till it dies. But
2014 Subaru Outback for me.
Here we go, baby. Yes, let's do it. But But no, the cars are characters, and I think it harkens back to when American, like, because before this movie came out, buying a foreign car was unheard of. Like American automotive steel, like that was such a part of our identity. And to see these hot rods, these cars that basically these kids kind of built up themselves and made these just very identifiable vehicles. I don't know that you pull that off today the same way, because I don't think we have that same relationship with cars as a culture. And that's in part because in the 70s the automotive industry changed. All of a sudden we're getting foreign cars in there, and we're getting things they're not made to be as permanent. And I think Lucas has always been a vehicle guy, a car guy, but really a vehicle guy. I mean, look at Star Wars. Although no wheels in those movies, if you think about it.
A lot of hovering things. Yeah.
It's hovering or they walk.
Right. I mean, wheels are pretty basic technology, right? Like it wouldn't have been that hard to, just put some wheels on the what's the thing that Obi-Wan rode there? That little hovercraft that he had was
the speeder. Yeah, but these cars, I mean, it's funny, like I was driving, I was at the gas station like a month ago, and one of the cars, like old guy had rebuilt it and he was getting gas. And there was about 15 people gathered around the car just to talk about it.
Nice.
And I wasn't one of them, but just sort of watching from afar, they are a character in this. And I think it's all those little things that makes, more importantly, our parents' generation probably feel like part of a time and a place that isn't there anymore. Yeah. And there's a nostalgia there, I think.
Okay, I have one last question, because I'm so intrigued by this movie and the sort of place that it holds culturally. Is there a parallel in contemporary culture, last 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know, of a movie set in a place that is so closely tied to just that one place? And I know for the listener, I am dropping all of these questions on Jim with no warning, by the way. Every one of these you have fielded like a shortstop out there. So I'm curious if there's a parallel now.
I think there are several, and I think there are, and it isn't even just movies tied to time and place, but there are movies that also are these collections of really, really young talent that would go on to influence pop culture. I mentioned the movie Diner, which is like very early Paul Reiser, but like Paul Reiser's in that movie. The guy from Police Academy's in that movie. Yeah. It's a very different kind of movie, but Wet Hot American Summer. Like, go look at the cast of that movie. Yeah. And what they did now, but it's all tied to that one very like summer camp thing. It does seem like every decade or so we get a movie like that maybe goes a little under the radar at the time it came out. And then we're forced to revisit it going backward. And then we realize that was how seminal and important that movie is. And it's interesting, Paul, like it's hard to say whether we get one of those movies again, because everything is so spread out. Yeah. You're getting 100 theatrical releases a year. We used to get 400. Right. Now everything's on streaming networks. And so we're missing whatever 2025's American Graffiti, because it's not getting a theatrical release. So I don't really know, but there are definitely moments after that movie where, I mean, I've made a movie very influenced by American Graffiti. So it definitely, it's still affecting filmmakers today, and you're still going to see those movies. It's just whether or not they capture the zeitgeist the way this one did, because of the democratization, I guess, of film.
You know what's another movie that is roughly from the same era as American Graffiti is, but a very different feeling to it, that had a cast of folks who would go on to amazing things. It's a baseball movie, Bingo Long Traveling All-Stars and Motor. Oh, yeah. Right? Totally. Like you look at the cast of that and it's just like, holy smokes, like so many of those guys went on to do, huge things. So, well, Jim, this is everything I hoped it would be. This is, I knew you were the guy to talk to about American Graffiti. What do you think of this, the Roadsters logo? You like it?
Oh, I absolutely love it. I have bookmarked it to get some gear. I'm waiting through. I've learned from my wife to wait till after the holidays before I buy things, because sometimes things show up.
Exactly. Well, in the meantime, while we were waiting for Roadsters gear and to be on the other side of these holidays here, where does one find Ballpark Nation and the work that you're doing?
I think the best thing to do is to go to our YouTube page. We're going to be changing our distribution a little bit, where we're going to be not just releasing our full episodes, of which you've helped a lot on, but I'm also going to start taking some of what we've done and making them a little bit more digestible into smaller bits. And so I think the YouTube channel, Amazon's great, every place else is great, but I don't really control where they are on those, and they can come and go. But the YouTube is ours, and I think that's the best place to go. So just go find Ballpark Nation USA on YouTube, and
Okay.
we're good to go.
And on all the socials too. Your
All the socials.
All the socials. Ballpark Nation USA. Jim, this has been fun. Great to see you. And we were talking before we started recording. We're going to hit an Astros game together at some point here. It's got to happen. That'll be a new
My
ballpark
treat.
for me.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Jim, happy holidays.
Happy holidays, bud.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It is time once again for Studio Simon Stumpers, the first Studio Simon Stumper of 2026. Let's see how we're going to kick off this brand new year with Dan Simon's weekly trivia question for me, but I hope you're all playing along as well. Dan, welcome back. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to you getting this new year off on the right foot. So let's get right to it. So obviously this episode has been about a team with a new name, and it's not the first time that the team in Modesto has had to come up with a new name. The last time a Modesto ball club changed its name was when the Modesto A's parent club, Oakland Athletics, decided to terminate their affiliation after the 2004 season. And so our Studio Simon Stumper today asks, how long had Modesto been affiliated with Oakland before the latter kicked the former to the proverbial curb? Was it 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years?
Modesto is a team that has had a lot of parent clubs. And I feel like because of that, the shorter timeline makes the most sense. Given that this is not one that I actually know the answer to just outright, I guess the question is, did Modesto become an affiliate of the A's in 1994, 1984, or 1974? Oh, that 1974 sounds right, though. But I'm going to go with my first instinct, Dan. Oh, boy, this new year is already off to a waffling start here. My first instinct was this team has had a lot of parent clubs, and so the shorter timeline makes sense. I'm going to go 10 years.
Well, so much for starting the new year off on the right foot, Paul. I actually thought you might have known this one because I thought we discussed this. And with regard to why we would have discussed this is the Modesto Nuts have come up in conversation before. As a matter of fact, they were the subject of an episode.
Yeah.
And a previous episode, of course.
And we talked about them a lot with the spreadsheet episode just last week.
Right. And I, in addition to having created the Modesto Nuts identity, sometime after that, I was asked to create a commemorative logo for them to celebrate 30 years as an Oakland A's affiliate. And the logo said 30 years together. I thought we had discussed that logo, and I even thought I had sent you that logo because it had come up in an episode before. Maybe my recollection is inaccurate, but I will share that logo with you.
You're counting on me to have remembered something from more than a half hour ago, Dan, and that's always dodgy. I did. As soon as I said 1974, I said, oh, that sounds right. And then I just decided I was, it wasn't good podcasting for people to listen to me think. So I went with my first sort of logical inclination, but it was, it was not the one. So, Dan.
It was a logical inclination because in just the previous episode, we talked about how many names they had. And if I remember correctly, they had 10 different parent clubs. Yeah. So 10 years, your guess is very logical. And it's surprising that it was actually 30, not just because of all those different parent club affiliations they had, but because in minor league baseball, 30 years straight with one team is highly unusual.
I know, it's a lot. Yeah, that is a lot. And that Nuts team was steeped in all kinds of history, right? Like, I mean, having all those parent clubs and having all those names and being in that city for so long. And so the Roadsters are picking up where the Nuts left off. And they're doing so by having 2 team names before they've even played a game. So that's they're carrying on that tradition of changing names. And anyway, Dan, this has been a fun episode, and I appreciate you and your stumpers, and looking forward to getting back out there and trying again. It only takes one. That's what Pete Rose used to say, Dan. It only takes one.
That's right. Forget about the last at bat. Start with an 0-0 count.
Yeah, they stumper trivia answerers and relief pitchers both have to have short memories to be successful. So we'll get back at it next week.
Okay, I'll see you then.